No, no, you continue. Get the way. Naturally, yeah.
Thank you so much, Rahul, for joining us here in the art room today.
Thank you, Sugandha, for inviting me.
It's been a rather crazy morning with all the rain.
Yes, and we tend to complain about the traffic and waterlogged roads. Of course, we've reasons to complain, but I think we should let rain happen. We need more rain.
Yes,
Yes.
Delhi always needs more rain. So, I want to begin this conversation by taking you a little back in time. You were working in the corporate space for 18 years, and then you decided to risk that all and move into the visual arts. Was there a specific moment that led you to this change?
Yes, I've been asked that a lot. So I was, I think I was 17 when I once came home and, told my parents that I want to be an artist.
Okay.
The middle class family background that I sort of came from, parents didn't sleep for apparently a week, and finally, they said, you're not being a professional artist, get onto the bandwagon of regular education, regular sort of the job rigmarole. They were very, very encouraging for me to, practice art, but they were very, very clear that art cannot really be the vocation that will pay the bills. So it should not be something that I should depend on to earn my living out of. So yes, I wanted to study art. I wanted to be an artist, when I was really young, but instead I ended up doing an MBA and got onto the corporate bandwagon, as you rightly said. But I continued to learn and practice, to begin with as a studio potter, because the training in clay really, in most parts of the world, definitely in India, really begins, by you learn how to throw pots on the wheels. So all of that really continued on the weekends, holidays, national
Alongside your
holidays.
full-time role.
Absolutely. So the
Okay.
full-time, sort of corporate job and everything sort of continued
Right.
Post my MBA. But yes, sometime, in 2007-8, I felt the need to study art, and I ended up applying for a scholarship to study in the US, the Fulbright scholarship. And I got the grant to do my master's from US. So I did my MFA. I took a sabbatical, finished my master's, came back, and again joined back my work, right? So and continued up until 2015-16 is when I took the decision to fully move away from the mainstream corporate roles to pursue many things within arts. So, specifically to your question, so there wasn't a moment in time when I decided to really shift. I was doing it all along. But yes, there was a time when I felt that home loans are paid. I've got some basic savings from the corporate earning, and I can now, do things which are not necessarily as remunerative as the corporate world would be, but I could afford to do those things, and therefore many things in visual art space, when I felt that comfort,
which has been good for your soul.
Absolutely, absolutely, been very, very satisfying, and I'm glad I made that sort of switch.
You have a very unique blend of 2 degrees. You have a master's in business administration and a master's of fine arts. So, do you think this rare combination has given you somewhat of an added advantage?
Yes, absolutely, because the two sets of experiences and education, they're actually very distinct, with very little overlap. Right. So when you're studying, you're an MBA, when you're working in the corporate world, the whole sensitivity of an art practice is hugely missing.
Right.
And very often, if you're studying art, practicing as an artist, or doing things in art, then there are a lot of pragmatic practicality, and especially of maybe running a business strategy, those are not the things that you're very familiar with or comfortable with.
Right.
So I do feel that these are very, very distinct sort of skill sets.
Right.
And it's interesting with both education as well as experience over the years. I do feel that I'm able to really bring the two together, and it is somewhat unique in that sense. I mean, I don't see very many people who are able to bring in the two worlds together
Right.
comfortably.
Right, and it's also something I feel that is somewhat missing from the fine arts education, that they don't teach you about business much. They don't teach you about how to write your CVs, how to put together your PDFs. So I think that basic business training is so necessary for even artists.
I couldn't agree more. If you're training to be a successful artist, your art practice itself is absolutely the most important thing.
100%.
But then there are these supporting things and skill sets, that are increasingly becoming more and more important.
Right.
With the influx of so many more artists, that are on their own, sometimes not even associated in the formal gallery system. So yes, a lot of those things could really be very, very helpful for artists as well. I completely agree with you.
Correct. And so when you said that this has been it's been an added advantage for you to have both an MFA and an MBA, and you also helped NDTV start their first online e-commerce platform, Mojato. So has the art landscape really evolved ever since 2016 to today in terms of selling online and the way art is perceived online?
I mean, absolutely. Now, when you say online, I think most galleries today will agree to the fact that a lot of their sales happen basis PDFs
Right.
that they actually share with their followers and clients on email and WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah.
that's also technically online, right? Because the decision is being made on screen and not by looking at the work in person necessarily, right?
Right.
So absolutely. Therefore, I agree. There is a lot that is happening, which is entirely based in the online kind of space, right? Of course, a platform like Mojato, or an e-commerce platform which is selling art, which is sort of bringing art and selling art, is different from sending PDFs on WhatsApp. But I think what sells easily in the online space, or by looking at images on screen and not even seeing the work in person, is when you are familiar with the practice, and when you're familiar with the artist, when you know the work of the artist,
Right.
And there, from my NDTV days, I can tell people did not hesitate to even buy big ticket SH Raza paintings, right,
Online.
which ran into several lakhs.
Okay.
It was Mojato is a purely online platform,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
I mean, things might have changed now, but we started off as an absolutely pure online platform.
Right.
And yes, people purchased. There was that confidence of authenticity, and they knew what a Raza painting would look like if they can see the image. So yes, those big ticket sales also happened online, and fairly frequently.
Okay.
Right. Or if it is a young emerging artist or a mid-career artist, again, the familiarity was, I think, very important then and even now. So I think, coming back to your question more specifically, I think from 2016, when Mojato was being set up, to today, which is good 8 years down the road, I think things have changed quite drastically. There is a lot more acceptance and ease of people are comfortable to look at things online and making
Correct.
those decisions.
Right.
But yes, the familiarity is important.
So that brings me to my next point, is that don't you think this distances the artist and the gallery from the collector, from those interesting conversations that people get into when they are buying art, when they're trying to get to know the artist better? Do you think online is actually distancing us from our buyer?
There is the whole romance of seeing art in person or being in conversation with the artists or the curators or all of that. I completely agree. So we cannot ever replicate that
Right.
unless virtual reality really does become something where you're able to pretty much feel that you're in that space, right?
Correct.
um, but the knowledge and information aspect of it, when you say that is getting missed out, I feel there are ways that is also getting plugged in.
Okay.
This conversation is reaching our audience
Right.
through online mechanism.
Yes.
Right? So the information sharing is in fact becoming, in some ways, it's becoming easier for people to do that. Now tell me, when is the last time you actually took a collector to an artist studio to see the process?
I don't think I
Probably
did.
ever,
Probably
right?
never, yes.
But then you do have your Instagram flooded with artist process
Yes.
in their studio.
Correct.
Or artist speaking.
Right.
So all of that is something which is getting bridged. So there are pros and cons. There are certain things which are probably going to get missed out, right? The happenstance of seeing a work and suddenly seeing another work in association just because the way you displayed.
Right.
Some of those discoveries, some of those incidental things, yes, all of that will get missed out. An important aspect that does get hugely in terms of experience that's lacking is just the scale of work, right? You standing in front of the work, right? If the largeness or the smallness of it, if it's a small work, it pulls you in for a more intimate viewing. If it's a large work, that's almost asking you to take a few steps back and see.
Correct.
But on screen, everything is. But then I remain, rather positive. Let's look at what we're able to do with technology and with some of this, online, virtual sort of spaces, and let's make the most of it.
And I think COVID has also really changed the way people are now consuming art online. Now they are more open to viewing it on their phones. They're more open to experiencing virtual reality rooms, and there's new technologies that have come up now, that NFT and these virtual realities, and the NFT called the merge by Pack, selling for almost $91 million.
Right.
What do you think this means for the future of art and technology?
So, there I feel we need to separate. There are two ideas that we need to separate, right? NFT is a technology. It's an enabler for either ensuring authenticity, or provenance and tracking of
the
work.
Yes.
It becomes most important in case of digital art, art which is produced using machines, and the file of it exists on the computer, right? So therefore, a digital imagery or a video or sound, all of that exists in the computer, right? So the moment I replicate the file, I share the file with you in the same resolution, or I share the video with you, you have that file as good as I have that file.
Right.
But which one is original? Right? It is exactly the same copy, with the same specifications. So when I'm, as a collector, making a purchase, I want to, and it's one, right, or edition of 5,
Right.
but there are 55 copies. So which one am I buying, right?
Yeah.
So NFT solves for that problem.
Right.
Right? It is not a way to make art.
Tracking down the provenance of a work.
The provenance and ensuring authenticity, that I'm
Correct.
buying out of the 5,500 files or whatever the number may be, I am buying one of the 5 editions,
Right.
and I'm therefore paying money for it, and therefore it's an asset that I'm buying, right?
Right.
So I think NFT solves for just that issue. It's a huge thing that I'm not belittling the problem, and therefore this is a huge deal. But it is not a way to make art. It is not a technology that is enabling art to be made. Now, you mentioned about AI, virtual reality, and all those kind of experiences. I think, especially in the contemporary times and contemporary art, right? I think medium is something that, is becoming less and less important. People use 20 years back, 30 years back, could you imagine the most recognizable contemporary artist internationally from India will be actually just welding a couple of stainless steel utensils,
Yeah.
right? We would have never imagined
Never
that
imagined
as
that,
a
right.
as a medium.
Right.
So it's not about the material that you're using. People are using mud and cow dung and discarded textile to everything,
Everything,
literally.
yes.
So I think contemporary art, the way we define it, and the art of this time, the medium and material specificity, it's becoming less and less important. It's about what they want to do, what they want to express. It's about that, and therefore that is what even the collector group and the serious people who are studying art or critiquing art are interested in. Now, in that, the tool, the process, if it is technology, well, then so be it.
Right.
Right. Yes, it is going to take a while for it to take off, more digital art to be accepted, and people, the commerce associated with it might take a little longer. But yes, it's always exciting. Change is the only constant. So
Right. So we look at it more like a tool rather than just the creator of the work.
absolutely,
It becomes an assisting tool for artists and their ideas and their thoughts. And then, so do you think these young emerging artists today are actually looking at these digital technologies as tools, or they are looking at them as threats?
and that's a pertinent question. It's a good question, and I think there are people who sit on both sides. But I think it's important to like we discussed, whether online or offline. Now, there are pros and cons, right? So make the most of it is what
Right.
I mean. I
Yeah.
feel, right. Can we stop technology to come into our lives? No, we can't.
We can't.
So either be critical of it, reject it, or be scared of it. Now that's one response. Or see what it can do for you, and make it an enabler, right?
Right.
Someone said, and I read it somewhere, it's not the camera that makes the photograph, it's the photographer that makes the photograph.
Right.
Right. So
And
you
that's
had that.
Wonderfully put.
Right. So you had those big cameras, even big television channels were really carrying those huge cameras. And today everything is happening with a very small device, which sits in our pocket, and we take it out. It's as good, better quality. Right. So my point is, what do you do with technology? You move forward, you make the most of it, and definitely remember it's the tool. Right. If you're a sculptor working with stone, you have a hammer and a chisel, right? That's your tool.
Right.
So now I have a hammer that I purchased from United Kingdom, and therefore my sculpture will become better. May not be the case, right?
Correct,
So
yeah.
it's not about the quality of the tool that defines what you do. It's just an enabler. So that's the way I see it.
So we're seeing a huge shift of wealth now into the hands of millennials and Gen Z, coming in from the baby boomer generation. How do you think they are responding to AI and digital art?
This generation, I have still not able to really figure out what is it that they're interested in, where their commitments are. I mean, I'm saying that with a lot of frustration and anxiety, because whoever you deal with from this generation, it's something that I'm still trying to wrap my head around, right? But that frustration aside, the one thing that is very interesting is that they do not really believe in owning a lot. They want their music when they need on demand. They want their television on demand. They want their books on demand.
Right.
They want their cars to be hailed when they need. They don't want to deal with the driver and the tantrums. It's like, you're done with this trip. I paid you. I don't know you.
Everything
right?
at an ease of a button.
I'll pay for what I need and when I need.
Right.
So this entire aspiration to build, collect, and own, it is something that this generation is seeing. It's a whole trend. We're seeing that to be a lot less.
Okay.
Right. They don't even want to print photographs and have albums like we used to have, right? That's also on somewhere in the cloud, and you just pull it when you need it, when you see it. That's it, right?
Right.
So nothing to be owned, right? So therefore, this idea of digital art, is something at some point will start becoming interesting. That again, I own the image, but I don't have to print it and take care of it. Now there are monsoons, so I have to ensure that there is no seepage happening, etc. So you really beam it the way you want to, when you want to. When you're done with it, you just sort of move, right? So that's one aspect of it, right? One has yet to see this take off in the digital art and appreciation. But then again, this generation is, I'm still not, like I said, able to wrap my head around. It's like, what is it that they really want?
This is my generation.
and I'm apologize already about my views.
I didn't realize we come out as that confused.
Oh my God, hugely confused. Where are your commitments, right? But if so that's certainly one aspect of it, right? The other aspect, and that's sort of my understanding again, generation of probably our parents, right? I mean, you and I are not same generation, so my parents, so the need to work was really to pay the bills and earn a livelihood, right? And in that, you would not even, very hierarchical kind of a setup, I'm saying maybe 40s or 1950s. And the next generation, the whole idea was to improve your lifestyle, right? So yes, I have the basic house somewhere, maybe not Delhi, so I won't get out on the street, but then I want a better lifestyle. I want a house in Delhi, or I want a bigger car, right? Or I want a holiday now internationally. So I want to earn better for that.
Right.
But again, now the generation that we're talking about, like your generation and the current generation, right? A lot of these things, the basics are already taken care of. So I think, and therefore I go back to, my idea of, the whole frustration as to what is it the kids are interested in. Those who are truly interested in art somehow are the ones who are going to take any of the inheritance of a collection forward, right?
Right.
There are so many gallerists who are not able to get their children to take their vision forward.
Right. Yeah.
Either new galleries are being formed, disconnecting with, I don't want to work with the modern masters and, that kind of art. I'll work only with contemporary art and therefore younger artists, or they're just not interested in it, right? The need to carry the business forward is not there. Right? So, a combination of the two, therefore, right? I think digital and ability to own without physically taking care of something. I think it is a trend in everything else. It is a trend in the house, the music, the book, the car, etc. So it will percolate down to art as well. Would be sort of a natural way to think. But yes, the interest aspect really does become very, very critical, because if you're not interested, you will just not do it. There's no reason, there's no pressure or any other compulsion because of which this generation does anything, is my understanding.
And when you say that they are not, they don't have enough information about art, and that interest possibly did not develop, maybe because they did not get the right sources of information to learn about contemporary art, to learn about the artist, the market. So if we were to make it a little easier for this generation, and if they are going into the market to buy contemporary art, what would be your advice if I am buying for investment purposes or for personal appreciation?
Okay, take 10 steps back. Access to information nahi hai, it is a completely a wrong statement. We have maximum possible avenues to get informed and become knowledgeable.
Right.
What is not there is interest. And this deep desire to simplify everything.
It does not exist.
And thank you for putting that in the question itself. I mean, even the news you want in shots.
That's true.
Don't give me the analysis as to what is happening and why it is happening. Just tell me what happened in 2 lines, and that's it. I don't have patience. And what do you call?
Scrolling?
It's called it's called a thumb stopper. You need a thumb stopper, something to hold your attention.
That lasts all of 3 seconds. If the video catches my attention, 3 seconds.
Keep going, ma'am. Thank you. You're not helping your generation, huh? You're calling out the issue in it, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So therefore, what my advice to anybody in this generation trying to do anything, invest your attention, right? Beyond 33 minutes, give those 30 hours to it, right? And the more you climb the hill, the more you realize there's so much more around. When you're at the bottom of the hill, there's nothing, there's no view. Once you move up, that's when you realize that's actually just one hill and there's so much more to discover and see, right? So there is free access to a lot of knowledge. I take that back. There is free access to a lot of information. Convert that into your knowledge. Start appreciating the nuances of things. And, then that journey is going to be, you'll be on your own and it'll be automatic. But that initial investment and push will be needed not just for art, it will be needed for everything.
Everything, right.
Now, investment versus living with an art because you love it. I think that question, it's not about this generation or the previous one. It is a rhetoric. It is a question, right? Yes, it is important to enjoy what you put on your wall and you consume it every day. You live with it. You engage with it every day, right? A good work of art actually should change for you basis the mindset you're coming in with. If you're happy today, the work will look happy to you. And if you're somber and somewhat quieter or depressed or not happy about certain things, the work of art will also sort of resonate certain emotions for you. So that change is very important, and that's a good work of art. All that being said, the kind of monies that are required to purchase certain artworks, expensive senior artists or masters, there are those expensive artworks, right? It is therefore an asset class. And when you're putting in, a couple of lakhs or, whatever, 50 lakhs, a crore, if you're putting those kind of numbers, I can understand that you don't want to see that completely tanking and becoming, 10% of that, right? So yes, if you are getting into building a collection or even buying one work, please put in the same amount of rigor and due diligence that you would do to buy a house, right? This building is available for 500 crores, right? Well, will you buy it for 500 crores even if you had that money?
Right.
You will do your due diligence. Is it the right place? Is it this? You will study a lot of things, right? So yes, if it is art is an asset class for you, do that due diligence. And if it is you're building a collection and keeping commerce out, again, engage with art in general, read about things, become knowledgeable, and then go on to that journey. And if it is love at first sight, you just sort of want something and you want to have it, just go for it, right?
Right. But do you think that we also feel a little bit intimidated by this entire art world? It's not as welcoming. It's very exclusive, very conservative in its approach, very slow to change. And therefore, sometimes people find it difficult to, step in, to come and speak to galleries, to speak to artists.
You're absolutely right, right? In the last probably a decade and a half, since we have seen a lot of art galleries come up and this art ecosystem sort of expanded to have more galleries, there is this sense of whether man on the street can really access. Can I enter? Can I ask a question and not look stupid?
Right.
But in the last, I don't know, give or take 2 to 4 years, a lot seems to be changing in that direction.
Okay.
Almost all good art galleries will have walkthroughs. They will have panel discussions. They will record a lot of this and beam it on their social media channels, allowing people to see it, not only visit the gallery and attend these events for free, but those who can't come, it's there, and it's there for posterity because it's now placed in the online space. There are a lot of these artist interactions and studio visits and interviews. So some of those access points, are really coming in through these efforts of art galleries, art fairs, or the art festivals and biennales, and whatever is happening, a lot is happening in the direction of demystifying it, providing access, allowing people to easily see things and read about it, experience it. Is it enough? No. Do we need to do a lot more? Absolutely. But again, I go back to the point. It's not the lack of information, right? It is the lack of interest.
Correct. And
right?
I think there we need to step up and take more action and more control as to what we want to know, where we want to expand our knowledge, and then try to touch base with multiple galleries and be a part of the ecosystem through these simple steps. Maybe attend a walkthrough, join a workshop.
Absolutely.
It would make it so much more easier to break that ice.
Exactly. And don't expect everything to be simplified.
Yeah.
Now, you want me to get interested? The onus lies on you.
Right.
To give me a thumb stopper.
Yeah.
So I stop and see this, right?
Yeah.
Somewhere, you need to take a step back and say, right, tell me, how do you teach someone to cook?
You watch them over time, you spend time with them in the kitchen,
and you feel the aroma, and now I can hear the spitter spatter of the cumin seeds. I think it's now ready, or I can now smell, I can now see. So when all of that sense, and if you don't have interest, you will not do it. Right. And that's all right. But then don't blame the world that they did not give you a thumb stopper. That's why you never became a good cook.
Correct.
Right?
Fair
so
enough.
Somewhere the onus lies on you. But the moment you take one step forward, there's a lot that is available for you to start engaging for free.
For free, guys. You can enter in this world for free.
Well, I don't think anybody is paying to listen to this conversation.
That's also for free. Free knowledge.
There you go.
Now, you raised the point that a lot of new galleries have started to come up. And a lot of these new galleries are actually showing contemporary artists. Do you think that the supply of contemporary artists has somehow superseded the demand? And is the market going to be able to sustain this disbalance?
Again, that's a very interesting observation, and I think it's an emphatic yes. The supply side is far higher than the demand side of it, right? So supply being artists and demand being collectors, in people who are interested in buying art, right? I mean, just look at the artist to gallery ratio in the country, right? How many art galleries, right? If you take all the possible art galleries, small, large, operating in small towns, big towns, representing artists or just showing art to sell, take all kinds, 300 or 400?
At max, yes.
In the entire country, right? If we count every tiny little shop that has art, 500, right? And how many art schools are there in the country? If we just take, again, by the same logic, all small, large, everything put together, 100 art schools, or maybe more across the country, right? Each one producing 50 a year,
yes,
right? So 15 to 100, that's 5,000. Lots of artists teaching in their studios. Another 5,000, that's 10,000, or whatever that number may look like, right? And those who passed out last year are not dead yet, right? So last 20 years or 30 years or 40 years worth of artists are still there, becoming only better, right? And every year this is getting added.
Yeah.
The number of galleries opening by no means are at the same pace, right? At no point am I trying to say that the gallery ecosystem is essential for artists to establish themselves or become sustainable. But that's just one of the yardsticks that I'm looking at, right? Now, after existence of the India Art Fair existed for 15 years, we now have a second art fair in the
fair.
country in Bombay,
Right.
right? It has taken 15 years for another art fair to be launched and to happen,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
So yes, the number of artists getting produced and getting added every year is independent of everything else, it seems. The art ecosystem, the galleries and other sort of avenues for artists to be able to sell or for buyers to be able to buy, is an important element that takes care of the demand side to expand.
Okay.
Right? And therefore, to use technology as a medium which is able to take art while you're sitting in Delhi or Bombay as an art gallery, but you have buyers in a smaller town of Jaipur or Indore, right? It is because of technology,
Right.
You can't take a fair to a small city. You can't open another gallery or a branch there necessarily. But then you're giving that access to people, at least who have interest.
Correct.
Right?
And then in such a competitive environment, technology becomes a support for these emerging artists to sort of stand out from the crowd.
Absolutely.
And how does one continue to do that? Like continue to stay relevant, continue to stay on top of their game in such a competitive landscape? How does an artist develop his own personal branding?
I think, remain true to your expression. So one of the big trends that I'm seeing, and there's something that I mentioned some time back, like the younger early to mid career artists that we're seeing now, they're not concerned about the purity of material or process, right? They just use everything as a tool, as a something. They will just put all that, and then they will create what they create. The themes that they're responding to are mostly very close to their own lives, the immediacy of their own experiences, right? So not a lot of people I have seen are responding to the Ukraine war or what's necessarily happening in rest of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, they're looking at what's happening in their village, what's happening to
Right.
their community, what's happening to their lives themselves, right? So that uniqueness, as long as you remain honest, that uniqueness will come through. So I think it's important to remain on that path. There is an information overload and bombardment of, there's a visual cacophony.
Absolutely.
Just open your Instagram and the
So
entire
much noise.
world is there on your fingers, right?
Yeah.
And it's easy to, get off the track, get swayed into looking at something, right? So I think make yourself very aware, by looking at and observing everything, but then, the conviction to stay true to what you are about. I think that's an important element.
And we also see that some of these emerging artists are not as financially successful as others. So, what is the kind of support system that we can offer them within the art community to an artist who's possibly not as commercially successful?
And the number of people that are not successful in any sphere will always be very, very large as compared to the people who really reach the top 5-10%. So it's not just in the art community.
Right.
Look at cinema, look at corporate world, right? Not everybody will become a chief of whatever, right? Or
Right.
CEO, etc., right? So there's a lot that goes in for you to rise, and that's true for art also. But talking about support, I think we now have more than ever grants for artists, and grants are coming. Earlier, we would see most often would be foundations, grant-making organizations, right? But now a lot of galleries are stepping in and providing those artist grants, right? Or there is production grants for certain projects that sort of get chosen. So I think a lot of that is happening, but again, it'll always be less than the number of artists that are getting added every year, and the sheer sort of excess in sort of supply, something that we spoke of,
Yeah.
right? So this entire aspect of support it'll always fall short.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think in that case, for us to stay relevant, to stay on top of your game, just be authentic, be real, be true to your practice, to your work, and eventually you will always come through.
Well, you may or may not, and that's something that I tell a lot of young artists, by the way, that if you must drive an Uber, but pay your bills somehow.
Yeah.
Do not compromise on your art. Don't start making art and waiting for that to sell to pay your bills, because that pressure is immense then.
Yes.
Right? And you will just not be able to sustain, and
Yeah.
there's no way you will remain true. You will start responding to what the market wants. Right? So don't do that. Figure other ways to earn, to pay your bills, to have a simple life. But the practice of art needs to be true and honest, and continue to do that. Right?
And you did that too. You never gave up on your art.
I did not, but then I had a corporate life, which also was quite demanding.
Of course,
and for me to have lived those 18 years of working in the corporate world, right?
Right.
But then that helped me sort of do what I do now.
Yeah.
Practice as an artist, curate shows, mentor a lot of young artists, write journalistically on art, right?
Right. So I think we'd like to wrap up here. It's been very insightful, I think, for somebody who's wanting to learn more about art and just wanting to, or an artist. This conversation will be so helpful for them to understand the different nuances of the industry. And we have a short rapid question round.
Sure.
As our final segment.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to ask you some fun questions.
Hopefully.
About...
Don't put me on the spot now.
Well, we'll try.
Try to or try not to? We'll see. All right.
Okay. So the first question is, art studio, messy or organized?
Extremely messy. Visiting my studio dressed to mess. But then again, fair warning, it's a clay studio. It's a ceramic artist studio. There's dust and mud everywhere.
Get ready to get your hands dirty.
Don't wear black when you're visiting me. That's on you.
One art trend you hope never comes back.
I think, the hegemony and this big idea of schools, right? So this is the Bengal school. That's, it's none of that exists in the contemporary art space.
Yeah.
Anybody's picking up anything from anywhere and just using it in their expression. And I think it's just lovely to see that fluidity.
Play it safe or risk it all?
Play it safe.
Are you a morning creativity person or a night creativity person?
Neither. I work through the day.
What's your art world guilty pleasure?
I have, I think, about 700 works of art, and I
in your personal collection?
In my personal collection, and I add on an average 2 or 3 or 4 art works every month. I have no idea what I'm going to do with it.
A book that you are currently reading?
Sapiens.
And the last one. One thing you would change if you were to run the entire art world?
Your generation. That's what I would change. Just get them more interested in anything. And in that...
Stop trying to simplify everything in life. Life is not supposed to be that simple.
Life is not in shots, right? And that, I think, will automatically have an impact on the art world and the art ecosystem.
Yeah.
Right. The moment we have more followers, more people to engage with art, it will lead to more people buying art. It will lead to then more collections, right? And then it will lead to more artists thriving. Everything changes.
On that note, Rahul, I'd like to wrap up this lovely conversation.
Thank you very much.
It's been a very interesting morning. Thank
Likewise.
you so much for joining us here in the art room.
Thank you for having me.
We have a small custom. We would like you to just sign the mug for us here.
I haven't done one of these.